Greetings, everyone. I am Rafael Caso, and welcome to Aim to Thrive, Wellbeing Education for the Construction Industry, where we learn life skills to move from a surviving to thriving mindset. Health, safety, and well-being empowerment through education. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce Glen Thurston, dad, builder, mental health advocate, and founder of Turn the Corner. Glen, welcome to Aim to Thrive.
Thanks, Raphael. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good, thanks for a Saturday morning where we're all waiting for Gabrielle. So we've got all the emergency notifications are like stock up for the next 3 days, but at the moment it's not looking too bad. So, but in saying so, I better go get some supplies. I'm not too sure what I'm going to get yet, but maybe toilet paper and clean water. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. It's a beautiful day down here, unfortunately for you guys. But, it's not picture perfect Monica skies.
Oh, fantastic! Now we've
I
heard
wish you guys all the best with that one.
Aucklanders have been very envious when we hear how amazing your summer's been. So we're very, very lucky. We've had a very wet, very miserable summer, but there's still a few weeks left. So here's hoping. Glen, please tell us a little bit about what you've been doing to raise awareness for mental health in the construction industry.
Yeah, righto. So this all sort of took place over a year ago. I sort of came up with this idea, and it sort of grew and grew. But essentially, there was a lot of training, a lot of things I did through the year, but it was in build up to I climbed a mountain at Lake Hawea 53 times in 53 days, and that was to represent the average suicide rate in the construction industry annually. So 53 people take their lives on average every year in the construction. That was from 2017 to 2020, that averages. So I decided to do this in a way to try and raise awareness, but also encourage tradies to jump on. Now, the mountain I climbed was a big mountain. It was a hard mountain, and everyone said, "Why did you choose this one?" I did it because it was hard, and having depression's not easy. So why would I choose a mountain that's easy? So I climbed this mountain, encouraged tradies to sponsor a day, and then sponsoring a day was all that meant was their company signed up and they came and walked up the hill with me, and we talked mental health, basically. Encouraged an open space for people to talk, communicate, and try and create a different conversation to what we're used to on building sites. It was a huge success. We had over 60 companies sign up with me. It wasn't about raising money. It was purely about awareness, and I think that was the key to this whole campaign, was the fact that it wasn't about raising money. It wasn't about putting money towards anything. It was purely just getting people involved. The biggest thing for me was realizing how many people are actually struggling. Like that, there's a massive, okay, there's big suicide rate, but on the other side of that, there's thousands and thousands of people struggling, whether it be financial, whether it's pressures at home, whether it's work pressures, or delays, or staffing issues, whatever. There's so many things that are triggering people into a shit spot, so to speak. So yeah, with climbing this mountain, I had over 335 people climb the mountain with me, which is huge in our community. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a big, and there's a flow-on effect from that. I also had a dinner after it to celebrate what we'd achieved. There was another 130 turned out for that, and I had Matt Chisholm as guest speaker and so forth. But it was so that's essentially what I did. The climb was a stunt to get people talking. It was really the build up to it. So in the build up to it was about trying to connect people to the Mates in Construction model, or any other education training programs like Blueprint for Learning, or Good Yarn, the Mental Health 101 training that Blueprint do. So it wasn't just anyone, it's just any sort of training, education around this this topic, I suppose, and create that conversation and understanding, so that people understand that even if you are in a good spot, you have a responsibility for everybody, your kids, your family, your friends. We live in a community here in Wanaka where there's not a household that doesn't have or know someone who's in the building industry. It's the biggest part of our community down here, other than tourism. But obviously, we know tourism hasn't been much in the last 3 years. So
yeah, sure.
So yeah, it's a big part of this community. Although I targeted construction, it's a people problem. It's a New Zealand problem. It's a worldwide problem, this suicide. So yeah, it was quietly targeting everyone. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Without
Fantastic,
getting
Glenn. Yeah,
gone
unreal.
deeper out. Yeah.
Glenn, could you please share a little bit about your own challenges and with mental health, and what was the turning point for yourself?
Yeah, okay. So I'll really briefly describe my history in my life. At the age of 13, I moved from Sydney to Adelaide with family. At that point, my dad took a redundancy package and from working for Qantas for 27 years, and then we moved state. He struggled with severe depression after that, like real bad. Back in the 90s, that was 30 years ago, it wasn't spoken about. And I think as a family and as a community and as a, you know, as a worldwide situation, it wasn't something that was dealt with properly at all. Medication was no good. He had 13 treatments of shock treatment. Anyway, long story short, we lived through that for a long time. And then at the age of 18, obviously I'd been building since I was 16, very big drinking culture, had a big night on the booze, and I ended up in hospital myself after an attempt to take my life. And to this day, I still don't know why that happened. I don't know what triggered it. There was, my life was good other than, a few things going on at home with Dad, but nothing traumatic. He was never beaten. He was never bad drunk. It was, nothing to cause it. So, and I guess same again, back in those days, back in the 90s, I didn't face the situation properly. The support wasn't there like it is today. People didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it. I got on with my life. I sort of stopped drinking for a wee while, but it wasn't long before I started, okay, this is what's going to stop the noises in my head, which, didn't really face those issues at the time. Anyway, I ended up meeting my wife in Adelaide. We moved away from Adelaide. I'd been in and out of building, just was never settled. I was always unsettled. I'd get grumpy and make a rash decision and, right, I'm going to do this, so I'd do it. We ended up moving, we're coming over to Wanaka for a season, and after a while we ended up moving here. So 17 years ago we moved to Wanaka permanently, and you sort of, in the back of my mind, was like, this is a fresh start. I'm going to move country. Everything's going to be good. And I thought it was going to be good. In fact, the demons don't leave you. They caught up with me. Drinking got heavy. I had my own business. I got stressed financially. I now have 3 daughters that are, teenage daughters. But at the time, you're trying to be a provider. You're trying to work hard. You're trying to bring the money in. Living expenses were going up. Wanaka's not a cheap place to live, but it's got everything beautiful about it. But there's from the richest to the poorest here. And then, I ended up running away from building again, and I built a gym that I wanted to do, that I had a dream about, and I just burnt out. In burning out, I was drinking heavy to disguise what was going on in my head for myself, trying to ignore everything. And alcohol was a big, big problem for me. I was never a bad drunk. I just drank to turn off, and I'd drink to get drunk. And I ended up having a really bad night, to the point where if my wife didn't wake up, I don't think I would still be here today. So I was very fortunate for some reason that she did. And that was it. I made that decision that night that I was going to make an appointment to the GP and find out what was going on. That appointment, she ended up making it a half-hour appointment once I got there, and I think I cried for about 30 minutes. It was just a huge weight that I needed to drop. I don't even think I hardly got many words out. It was just everything hit the floor. She referred me to brief intervention. I got some good support there, and I think between that and the determination on my own fact, I pushed through it and wasn't giving up until I made some better decisions. I ended up giving up alcohol at the same time. I went cold turkey, which I was highly advised not to do for the amount that I was drinking, but I just had to do it that way because I've tried giving up in the past, and without stopping in a cold turkey, it wasn't going to work for me. So from that turning point right then is when I made the changes. That was 6 years ago now, and I got out of building. I got out of building, and I got out of that. I sold that business, and I actually went farming for 4 years. And obviously, there's a huge mental health issue in the farming, which is another conversation. But for me, it was actually a really good healing process. I managed to find some time for myself. I became a bit of a recluse for a while, but when you give up drinking, all of a sudden you realize who your real friends are. And I was hanging around the wrong people at the time. Well, not wrong people, that it wasn't supporting the needs that I needed to move forward. So I sort of just lived a bit of a lonely life up on the farm, but it got to the point where I needed to be around people again. I was missing building. It was my trade. I come back into it, but I was shit scared. I was nervous, and knowing what I'd been through and the culture of drinking and the culture of masculinity in the building industry, and people can't talk. So I thought, if I'm going to go back, and everyone in Wanaka already sort of knew about what I'd been through, but like I thought everyone was talking, but obviously that's just my head, as you do. And I thought, right, if I'm going to go back building, rather than everyone going, oh, you're back building now, it was like I wanted to come back and make a difference, so that those that are struggling aren't going to have to ever go through what I went through, or more options and opportunities for them, and for the young ones coming through as apprentices, coming out of school, and know that there are people that actually give a shit. We're not all male chauvinist bullies that just want to pick on the new guy coming on site. So it was a bit of a challenge, because it was not only coming back to something that I just sort of ran away from, but I was also coming in saying, things have got to change, because they do.
Well, good on you. Yeah,
they got to be better. Yeah,
fantastic, Glenn. Glenn, in your opinion, do you see attitudes towards openly discussing mental health? Do you see those improving in industries such as construction? And what improvements have you noticed, and what still needs to be done, do you feel?
I definitely have seen change, especially through what I've done, and locally in our community. Yes, 100% there's change. Through New Zealand, it's really hard to say, but with that mates and construction model, and people like yourself doing what you're doing, there's definitely a shift in the way we think and talk about it.
Yes.
I think we've got to get away from the fundraising side of things. I do think people need to understand, like, health and safety. We go into our first aid certificates. We don't do all this fundraising for first aid certificates, so why are we doing it for mental health? It's just a personal obligation that we all need to understand. It's a part of our life that we all need to support each other, and getting educated around it to stop people getting to that cliff edge is a huge part of what we need to do in our toolbox meetings, and discuss it, and annually have our training, whether it be just in-house or through a mates model, or a mental health 101 model or something. So why do we get our first aid certificate? We get that because if someone hurts themselves, we can put a Band-Aid on them, and then hopefully get them to the professionals before there's major damage, or that, so they don't die. Why is it any different for mental health? All we're there to do is to put that Band-Aid on them, to support them, to get them to the support that they need, so they don't end their life. And it's exactly the same, except it's treated like the forbidden word, the forbidden conversation, and it's just crazy. It's 10 people a year are dying from workplace accidents, and it's prioritized, which is great. It needs to. 53 are dying from suicide, and nothing's really changing. Little bits here and there. So I do see more needs to be done there, but like I say, there is definite change with what I've been doing. Obviously, it's a huge conversation with everyone I talk to, because I'm very biased. I'm very open, and the conversation's always there. I don't know whether it's between company to company, but I'm hearing of companies that are organising barbecues more at lunchtime, so there's less alcohol. 4-day weeks, so they get time for their families, or time to do their stuff, so they can enjoy their weekends. There's a whole heap of different things that different companies are doing to improve the wellness of their staff, but in doing that, it's actually helping the employer, because they've got less stress about worrying about things that they don't need to worry about. So people need to understand, if you look after your staff, they're also going to look after you as an employer. So they're going to see, if you've trained your staff up, they're going to see when you're having a rough time, and they will look after you. They'll say, hey, you go and enjoy your family this weekend. Don't worry about the footings or the boxing. We'll get that sorted. You just go on and take some time off. It works both ways. It's not just a responsibility of the employer. it's the responsibility of the employees to, you know, they've got a job, and if they don't look after their employer, they're not going to have a job. So yeah, I think it's a two-way street for everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic. Glenn, what can support, people that know of someone, a friend, work colleague, sibling, someone in their family, what's your best advice to them to support someone that they have noticed is struggling with their mental health? A lot of the time, people don't know what to do. Like they don't know how to start a conversation. They don't know where to point someone. I think a lot of the hesitancy in beginning a conversation is a lack of know-how. So what's your advice to people in a support position?
I guess the most important thing from my point of view only, and this is not a educated from a degree, this is just my opinion of what I've been through. The biggest thing that I found is if I did ever end up speaking out, whether I was drunk or not drunk or whatever, people always tried to give you an answer. You don't need to give an answer. You don't need to fix people. You don't. The worst thing I ever wanted to hear is what you need to do is this. It's like, no, I know what I need to do. I just don't figure that out. The best thing you can do is listen, and that's it. You don't have to give answers, and just respond with them with, you sounds like you're having a hard time. Is there anything I can do to help? Ask the questions there. Ask if they're suicidal. Don't be scared to talk about suicide, because if someone ever asked me that, I would have said yes, but no one ever did. The other question that no one would ever ask me, if I did get asked that question, is, do you want to die? Well, the answer is no. Just because I felt suicide. I just wanted those feelings to go away. I wanted those thoughts to go away. And the only way for them to go away in my head was to go away. But support wasn't really something I talked about or thought about. So it's a case of guiding someone to those places without forcing them, asking them if they'd like you to take them there, or is there someone that you'd like to see? Would you like to get some support? You're not there to fix them. When it's the same with, like I say, a first aid. You're not expected to, if that person passed away because you couldn't give CPR properly, it's not your fault. You're doing the best you can do. So, do what you can, but you're not the medical professional to solve that problem. It's a case of guiding them there. So don't tell someone what they need to do is. It's listen and support. That's it.
Yeah, great advice. Glenn, what's next in your amazing journey with raising awareness for mental health?
I've got a few things on the go. Obviously, I've got a few engagements like this, and I've got a talk this week with the Deaf Talkers Association in Wanaka, and the Wapiti Foundation, obviously the big hunting fraternity down here. So I'm doing a talk in June or July or whatever it is, down in Tiana. So there's a few things coming up, but other than that, I don't want a conversation to stop locally. I mean, it's really hard to keep it national, but I am creating work. I'm just waiting on to find out if I get a bit of funding, and I've applied for about 10K through the Mental Health Foundation, and I'm wanting to create a committee locally, which will essentially be 4 meetings a year, because everyone's pretty busy. So too many meetings is just too much. So we do 4 meetings a year, and it's basically going to be a wellness space for the construction industry to come together. It's not a support group as such, but it is a support group in the fact that we'll connect and discuss any issues, have guest speakers, whether it be someone in psychology or whether it be a financial person, anything that's going to be constructive towards bettering the wellness of your company, your staff, or anything. It will also be a one-stop shop for training. So the people have staff members that need training. It'll be, okay, you got that many, we've got that. Okay, how about we contact Mates or Blueprint? How about we get one of them training days up here? So it'll be a sort of a one-stop shop. We'll create a database of people that are trained on the website, so that people locally can go, okay, I need to talk to someone. There's these guys that are trained. I know him. Let's go talk to him. I'm going to go talk to him. Because it's all well and good in our company, we've got 7 connectors. But if I'm having an issue with the company I'm with, I can't talk to anyone. So how do I know who else is trained? It's something I've put forward to mates and said, why is there not a database of people? Like, this is important that people know who's out there to support. Obviously, it's going to be voluntary if they don't want to be on it. They don't have to be, but the bigger database, the better. The bigger support network we have, it just creates a flow-on effect. So yeah, I'm just creating. I want to create that committee, but what I'm also going to do is create it in a template, as a template that other communities can take and use, and other industries can take and use, so that this can hopefully grow into a support network nationally. Hopefully,
Fantastic.
like Queenstown can go and take it. Invercargill could set up a committee. Or because down south, we've only just had mates turn up 12 months ago. When I started this campaign, they weren't even in the South Island. So we're a little bit behind down here. You guys have had mates up there now nearly 4 years, I think, and probably everything else that's going on. Blueprint for Learning have been around for years, but it's always been at the top end, like training people in industry that need to deal with wellness and well-being. Well, that's no good for the rest of the world. we all need to deal with it. So
of course,
basically my approach is hitting the community, but hitting it from the bottom up, like getting to the ground floor, getting to the sites, visiting the people, talking to the people, getting them involved. So getting them on the hill. I've had a chat with lots of tradies, lots of company owners, lots of staff, and the amount of people that are wanting to get involved in this committee, basically it's going to start straight away. Could only be 10 companies, but that will flow on and hopefully gather momentum. And then, we'll do the odd fundraising, but it'll stay in the community so that it supports us rather than going to national to print brochures. Brochures don't fix people. People fix people. People help people. And we need to put all that money that's going into printing brochures, I feel, needs to go into education, training, and supporting everybody, not just the people that need it. We're all very reactive, and I am even being reactive with my situation, with my campaign. It's something I went through, so I'm reacting and going, we need to do this. So we need more people to do something that aren't actually in a bad position, but see that there's a need for it, It always seems to be people like me that have been through a dark place coming out of it and realize we've got to do something about it. And yet it's everyone's problem. All of a sudden one day your kid might be struggling, and if you don't have the tools to fix them, I'm not saying it's your fault, but things could be different. My life could have been a lot different if 20 years ago, when I started this journey of what I've been through, I might have fixed myself 15 years ago rather than battled demons for 20 years, and life's great, and people need to realize I was at the bottom of the bottom. I've tried taking my life. I've had many bad nights. And then I've hit rock bottom again 20 years later. And now, 6 years on from that, I'm the best I've ever been. I'm a completely different person than who I was. I don't drink. I don't do any substance abuse at all.
Fantastic.
And I'm so proud of that. And there's so much to be seen out the other side. And until you're there, it's really hard to see it. But I'm the living proof that it can happen. And there's many other people that have been through it as well. They're probably not as boisterous as I am, and letting the world know. And I've got 3 kids, and I've been very open with them. It was something that we weren't at home as in my family. We sort of just brushed it under the carpet and got on and didn't want to think about it, didn't want to talk about it. So having this different approach, people say you shouldn't talk to kids, shouldn't talk about suicide. It triggers people. I just find it such a load of crap. I've been to funerals. I've had people take their life, friends of mine, and I've watched movies with suicidal references. Nothing's ever triggered me. I've had my own demons. Nothing triggers you. No one's ever asked the people that have taken their life, oh, what triggered you? Oh, sorry, you're dead. I can't ask you that. So whoever came up with this theory that it triggers people, it's just crazy. It's just stopping the conversation. I know you got to have safe talks and all that, but it's I don't think there's a problem with talking. My 12-year-old, I sat her down and explained what I'd been through before I did this campaign and why I was doing it. And it's been the best thing for my relationship with her and my other 2 daughters. Like there's an understanding that there's support there. They know they can go get counselling. They know they can go get support. They know they can talk to me. It's been a great thing for me as a family. It's put a whole different aspect on how we discuss things and how open we are. And other than as a family hiding behind what I'd been through, and well, what are those tablets for, Dad? Oh, they're just for my arthritis. Like, they're my happy pills. It's like we don't hide behind it. We just live with it and move on. Just like I would if I had Parkinson's and I had to have a tablet. It's just what it is.
Fantastic, Glenn. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of wisdom and a lot of great insights for those of us that are listening. Really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Glenn, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah.
Really excited to hear of all your future adventures, and would love to potentially sort of work in with you however I can, based up here in Auckland.
Yes, great. Yeah.
Really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much, Raphael. Appreciate it.
And see you a bit later on.
Will do.